And it appears Mr. and Mrs. Backtrack are at it again, this time with Meghan Markle reportedly feeling regretful over Harry's hit job memoir Spare that threw the royal family under a bus. Having already tried distancing themselves from their bogus racism claims in the Oprah interview, a royal source now reckons the Duchess of Sussex has buyer's remorse over Harry's book after they were dubbed professional whiners. So, Tom Bauer, this does feel a little bit like Meghan is trying to distance herself from Spare because it was so awful and the Americans really turned on her as a result. But what are you hearing?
Well, what I'm hearing is that they're facing yet another crisis. And the crisis now is really quite profound. They have a crisis of identity, a crisis of purpose, and a creeping crisis of fear that they won't have enough cash. I think the real problem for the Sussexes is that they really have no idea what they're going to do next. And so what they're really facing is a terrible problem of what work should they do, what mission have they got in life, which they always had, and of course they've had the terrible disappointment about Netflix. And because what was really interesting last week was, while you were away, that the Times reported that they were going to get a nomination, an Emmy nomination for their series. Well, of course they didn't, as I predicted they wouldn't last week. And the whole problem is for them. Well, the problem is that people have turned against the Sussexes. And that was a huge blow to them, that this rather successful in terms of audience and publicity, the Netflix series on their lives and their crisis, has not been nominated, and she hasn't yet been named, as she'd hoped, as a judge in the Emmy Awards. So creeping all the time is this belief, I think, that the Sussexes are finding life very difficult. And what's really remarkable is that one never sees a happy family couple with 2 children in California, in Montecito, or by the beach. They seem to have withdrawn dramatically, and that is, I think, a symptom of their depression, of their fear, that they really don't know what more to do to really establish themselves and to survive.
So the Emmy thing is fascinating, isn't it? Because, remember, that's Netflix, so that's right at the heart of the liberal elite in Hollywood. It absolutely would have been expected to get onto that shortlist because, remember, Netflix does a lot of campaigning for shows like that. So I think maybe, Tom, this is the... I mean, I know we've had Spotify and the executive speaking out, but this is actual evidence now, isn't it, of just how out of favour they are in Tinseltown.
And what's interesting is that, of course, their publicists were clearly leaking that they were going to get an award. That's why the Times wrongly reported that they had got the award. But what's interesting as well is that they keep on suggesting that they've got new Netflix projects, either Harry going to Africa to save Africa and the animals there, or Meghan going to South Africa and examining poverty there. But, of course, these aren't proper Netflix subjects. They're not going to get a big audience. And in the end, it always comes down to the problem they have of their profile, of their what do they represent, their purpose, their identity. And that, I think, to their misfortune, is that they're now finding it very difficult to assert themselves and maintain themselves as A-list celebrities. Of course, they never were, but that was their ambition. And they're just slipping down the pecking order fast.